Tonight, we're going to drift through the gaps between the stars and stand on the edge of the great void. The numbers do not line up with our intuition, for the universe is 99.99% empty space, yet we perceive it as a crowded map of galaxies. We look at the night sky and see a velvet curtain dusted with light, imagining a cosmos filled with celestial neighborhoods and orbiting spheres. But this is a visual illusion born of our need for proximity. In reality, the distance between two atoms in a single piece of iron is a yawning canyon of nothingness, and the distance between two galaxies is a silence so profound it defies the human capacity to feel. Picture the scale of this absence. If the entire observable universe were shrunk to the size of the Earth, a single galaxy would be smaller than a grain of sand, and even those grains of sand are not huddled together. They are scattered across a continent of emptiness, separated by millions of miles of absolute vacuum, where not a single photon of light may travel for eons without encountering a single particle of matter. We exist in the rare, improbable accidents of density. We are the foam on the crest of a dark, infinite ocean, clinging to a small island of hydrogen and helium, while the rest of the cosmos is a sterile, freezing expanse of nothing. This is the paradox of the cosmic architecture. We draw diagrams of the local group and the Virgo supercluster, sketching lines and clusters as if the universe were a city with suburbs and highways. But these maps are lies of convenience. They strip away the void to make the scale manageable. When you remove the lines, you are left with a terrifying reality where matter is an intruder. The stars are not the main feature of the universe. They are merely ghosts floating in a vacuum so complete that the very concept of a location becomes meaningless. The cold is not just a temperature here, but a physical presence. In the deep gaps, far from the warmth of any stellar nursery, the vacuum reaches a state of near absolute zero, a place where time seems to stretch and flatten. We drift through this indigo haze, feeling the weight of the distance. Every light year is a measurement of isolation. To move from one star to another is not a journey across a distance, but a crossing of a desert where the sand is made of nothing and the horizon never arrives. We have spent centuries cataloging the lights, naming the constellations, and measuring the spin of distant disks. We focused on the things we could see because the emptiness was too vast to acknowledge. We treated the void as a background, a stage upon which the drama of stars unfolded. But the void is not the stage. The void is the lead actor. The emptiness is the primary substance of existence, and the matter we call home is merely a thin, flickering veil draped over an abyss. As we move further away from the familiarity of our own solar system, the light of the sun shrinks from a golden orb to a pale, insignificant spark, and then to nothing at all. We are stepping out of the light and into the true nature of the cosmos. We are entering the regions where the laws of proximity break down, and where the scale of the universe reveals its true, isolating face. We are learning that to be in the universe is to be surrounded by an oppressive, beautiful, and absolute silence. And yet, our early maps suggested a far denser architecture. Our early models imagined a cosmos filled with a relatively uniform distribution of matter. For decades, this was the cornerstone of our understanding. When Edwin Hubble published his findings in the late 1920s, the universe began to look like a predictable, orderly place. The Hubble law suggested a linear relationship between a galaxy's distance and the speed at which it receded from us, creating a vision of a universe that was expanding evenly in every direction. In this early model, the cosmos was viewed as a homogeneous fluid of galaxies, seamless ocean of light where matter was distributed with a comforting consistency. We believed that if you traveled far enough in any direction, the view would remain largely the same. The assumption was that the universe was isotropic, meaning it looked the same regardless of where you stood or which way you pointed your telescope. This was the cosmological principle, the bedrock of astrophysics for nearly a century. It painted a picture of a crowded, reliable architecture where galaxies were like grains of salt scattered evenly across a dark table. There were no great absences, no terrifying gaps, only a steady, predictable thinning of light as we looked deeper into the distance. This homogeneity provided a sense of security. It suggested that our home in the Milky Way was not an anomaly, but a representative sample of the rest of existence. If the universe was a fluid, then we were simply one drop in an infinite, consistent sea. The distances were vast, yes, but they were filled with a predictable frequency of matter. We did not fear the emptiness because we did not believe the emptiness could be absolute. We believed that the laws of physics demanded a certain level of clutter, a minimum threshold of galaxies that ensured no part of the cosmos was truly abandoned. But as the decades passed, our instruments changed. The telescopes grew larger, the sensors became more sensitive, and the data began to leak through the cracks of the old models. We started to see that the smooth fluid of galaxies was an illusion born of our limited perspective. The symmetry we had relied upon was not a law of nature, but a result of not looking deep enough. We were seeing the universe through a blur, and in that blur, the gaps looked filled. The measurements began to drift. The data from newer surveys started to show that matter was not evenly distributed, but was instead clumped together in massive, sprawling filaments, leaving behind regions of space that were far emptier than the Hubble law could explain. The fluid was breaking apart. The seamless ocean was revealing itself to be a series of isolated islands, floating in a vacuum that was far more aggressive and absolute than we had ever dared to imagine. We realized that the cosmological principle was only true on the largest possible scales, and even then it was a rough average. On the scale of billions of light years, the universe was not a smooth gradient, but a jagged, porous structure. It was a cosmic sponge filled with holes of such staggering size that they defied the very definition of space. The balance was gone. The symmetry had shattered. We were no longer looking at a crowded map. We were looking at a map of absences. We were discovering that the primary characteristic of the universe is not the presence of matter, but the absence of it. The galaxies were not the main event. They were the rare exceptions to a rule of total emptiness. The fluid had vanished, leaving behind a skeletal architecture of dark matter and gas, and within that architecture were the voids. But as our eyes grew sharper, the gaps began to yawn. Expectation, a universe that follows a predictable, statistical distribution of matter, where every cubic megaparsec of space contains a reliable number of galaxies. Reality, a region of space so profoundly empty that it challenges the very foundations of our cosmological models. Here is where the map breaks. For decades, the lambda CDM model, the standard mathematical framework for the evolution of the universe, predicted a specific density of matter. It suggested that while voids exist, they should be populated by a certain threshold of lonely, stray galaxies, ghosts of the early universe that failed to clump into larger clusters. But as we look deeper into the constellation of Boötes, we found something that did not fit the equation. We found the Boötes void. It is not merely a gap. It is a sphere of absolute nothingness, spanning approximately 330 million light-years in diameter. To grasp the scale, one must realize that if the Milky Way were at the dead center of this void, we would have looked at the sky for millennia and seen nothing. No neighboring galaxies, no distant spirals, no shimmering clusters. The night sky would have appeared as a total, oppressive blackness, leading us to believe that our galaxy was the only island of light in an infinite dead sea. The numbers do not line up. According to the lambda CDM model, a volume of space this size should contain roughly 2,000 galaxies. Instead, astronomers found only a handful, a few scattered specks of light drifting in a vacuum so pure it feels intentional. No one predicts a hole this large. The Boötes void is a cosmic anomaly, a region where the matter simply vanished or never coalesced. It is a continent of emptiness that defies the average. It suggests that the universe is not a smooth fabric but a shredded one, riddled with holes that shouldn't exist according to the rules we wrote. We are forced to ask how such a vacuum forms. Some theories suggest that smaller voids merged over billions of years, like bubbles in a boiling pot of space-time, consuming everything in their path until only this staggering silence remained. Others suggest a flaw in our understanding of dark energy, the invisible force pushing the cosmos apart, acting with a localized aggression that cleared this region entirely. The Boötes void serves as a reminder that the universe does not care for our averages. It does not adhere to our expectations of symmetry. It is capable of creating deserts of such magnitude that the word distance loses its meaning. We are not just talking about the space between stars or the gap between planets, but a void that could swallow thousands of our own local groups without leaving a trace. When we look at the Boötes void, we are looking at the true face of the cosmos. We are seeing the baseline, the galaxies, the nebulae, the glittering clusters of the great Attractor. These are the ornaments. The void is the actual structure. The nothingness is the rule, and the matter is the rare, fragile accident. As we drift further from the light of our own sun, the presence of these voids changes the way we perceive our place in the dark. We are clinging to a thin filament of matter, a narrow bridge of stars and gas, while all around us, the yawning canyons of the Boötes void and its siblings wait in the silence. We are inhabitants of a cosmic shoreline, staring out into an ocean of absence that is far deeper and more absolute than any map could ever convey. The silence of Boötes is not the silence of a room where the music has stopped. It is the silence of a place where music was never invented. It is a vacuum that stretches across 330 million light-years, a sphere of isolation so complete that it makes the distance between Earth and the Moon seem like a touch. We have spent centuries cataloging the things that exist. We have named the stars, mapped the nebulae, and weighed the black holes. But the most important discovery of the modern era is not what is there, but what is missing. The void is not the background. It is the protagonist. To understand this emptiness, we must first feel the distance. We begin our descent now, leaving the familiar warmth of our solar system behind, drifting slowly into the interstellar medium. As the golden light of the sun recedes, it does not vanish instantly, but instead dissolves into a pale, distant spark, becoming just one more diamond among billions in a velvet sky. We are moving into the spaces between, the regions where the influence of any single star is nothing more than a ghost of a gravitational pull. the colors shift. The bright yellows and whites of our home fade into a deep, oppressive indigo haze, cold blue that feels less like a color and more like a physical weight. This is the true texture of the vacuum, a place where the distance is so vast that the very concept of a neighbor becomes an absurdity. In this indigo silence, we are traversing a territory that is almost entirely devoid of matter. We are passing through a medium so thin that if you were to gather every single atom of hydrogen in a cubic centimeter of this space, you would find perhaps 1 or 2 particles floating in a sea of absolute nothingness. This is not the vacuum of a laboratory on Earth, where we struggle to remove the last few molecules of air. This is the fundamental vacuum of the cosmos, a state of existence where the void is the only constant. As we drift deeper, the temperature begins to drop, falling far below the freezing point of any substance we have ever touched. We are descending toward the thermal basement of the universe. Here, the heat of the Big Bang has stretched and cooled over 13.8 billion years, leaving behind a faint, omnipresent glow that fills every inch of the dark. This is the cosmic microwave background radiation, the oldest light in existence. When we measure this glow, we find a temperature of exactly 2.7 Kelvin. It is a cold so profound that it borders on the absolute limit of physics, just a fraction above absolute zero. At 2.7 Kelvin, all molecular motion slows to a crawl. The universe here is not just empty, it is frozen in a state of permanent, breathless stillness. We are floating in a bath of this ancient radiation, a relic of the moment the universe first became transparent. This 2.7 Kelvin background is the heartbeat of the void, a low-frequency hum that tells us where we have been and how far we have fallen from the fire of creation. In this indigo haze, the light of the nearest star is no longer a guiding beacon, but a distant, shivering point of light that seems to be retreating from us. We are now in the realm of the interstellar medium, where the silence is absolute, and the cold is an architectural feature of space itself. Every kilometer we travel adds to the isolation. The indigo haze grows thicker, not with matter, but with the sheer absence of it. We are moving through a region where the scale of the void begins to dwarf the scale of the stars. We have left the safety of the galactic shoreline and are now wading into the deep water of the interstellar dark. The distance between us and the last known point of light is growing, and the void is beginning to expand in our perception, filling our entire field of vision with a darkness that is not merely the absence of light, but a presence of its own. The cosmic microwave background continues to wrap around us, a cold shroud of 2.7 Kelvin that reminds us that we are traveling through the ruins of the early universe. This radiation is the only thing that fills the gap, a ghostly whisper that echoes across the light years. We are drifting through a graveyard of energy, where the heat of the beginning has been diluted by the expansion of space until it is nearly gone. The indigo haze is the color of this exhaustion, the visual representation of a universe that is slowly cooling, slowly stretching, and slowly forgetting the warmth of its own birth. As we move further, the coordinates of our origin cease to matter. There is no up, no down, and no direction. That leads back to the familiar. There is only the forward motion into a vacuum that refuses to end. The scale of this emptiness is not something that can be grasped by the mind, because the mind is built for the scale of planets and cities, not for the scale of the interstellar medium. We are trying to measure an ocean with a teaspoon, We are attempting to map a desert that has no borders and no landmarks. The light from the stars we left behind is now just a memory, a few scattered photons fighting their way through the indigo haze to reach our eyes. But even those photons are being stretched by the expansion of the cosmos, shifting toward the red end of the spectrum, sliding slowly toward the infrared, and eventually merging with the 2.7 Kelvin background of the void. Everything is becoming the void. Everything is being absorbed by the silence. We are now truly alone in the dark, suspended in a temperature that would shatter any known material, drifting through a medium that is more vacuum than matter. We have reached the point where the physical laws of the cosmos feel less like rules and more like a sentence of isolation. The indigo haze is our only companion, and the 2.7 Kelvin chill is our only constant. We are no longer observers of the void. We are a part of it. We are a small, fragile spark of consciousness floating in a sea of absolute zero, realizing that the distances we once thought were great are actually infinitesimal compared to the true gaps of the universe. The light of the nearest star has finally faded into the background, leaving us in a darkness so complete that it feels tactile. The indigo has turned to black, and the black has turned into a void that consumes all thought. We are now drifting in the true interstellar medium, where the gaps between the stars are not just distances, but entirely different realms of existence. Here, the vacuum is the law, and the cold is the only truth. The numbers of this void are beyond human intuition. To grasp the distance to our nearest neighbor, we must first abandon the maps we have been taught to trust. Our minds are evolved to understand the length of a street, the width of a forest, or the span of an ocean. We possess a biological limit to how we perceive space. When we look at a star chart, the dots are placed close together, suggesting a cosmos that is almost a crowded city of light. We see the Milky Way and its neighbors as if they were islands in a shallow pond. But the pond is an ocean, and the islands are smaller than we can possibly conceive. To bridge this gap in intuition, we can strip away the astronomical units and the light years, and instead use a scale that our hands can touch. Consider the Earth, not as a planet of oceans and atmosphere, but as a single solitary grain of sand. A tiny translucent speck of silica, barely visible to the naked eye, resting on the palm of your hand. In this scale, the vastness of our own planet is reduced to a point of insignificance. This single grain of sand represents everything we have ever known. Every mountain, every city, every breath ever taken by every human being who has ever lived is contained within that one grain of sand. Now, we look for our nearest neighbor, Proxima Centauri. In the diagrams of a textbook, Proxima Centauri is the next dot over. It is the closest star to our sun, a small red dwarf that seems almost within reach on a printed page. But if the Earth is that single grain of sand in your hand, the distance to Proxima Centauri is no longer a matter of a few inches or a few feet. To find that second point of light, you would have to leave your home. You would have to walk out of your door and begin a journey across the landscape. You would walk past your neighborhood, through the center of your city, and continue far beyond the urban sprawl. You would cross highways and forests, passing through town after town, moving in a straight line through the wilderness. You would walk for hours. You would walk until your feet were weary and the sun had shifted in the sky. You would cover the distance of an entire metropolitan area. Only after traveling 40 kilometers away from that first grain of sand would you finally find the second one. 40 kilometers of absolute, unbroken emptiness. Between that first grain of sand and the second, there is nothing. No other grains of sand, no pebbles, no landmarks, just 40 kilometers of a void where not a single piece of matter exists to break the silence. This is the true ratio of our existence. The distance between the Earth and the nearest star is not a gap we can imagine, but a desert of such profound scale that the stars themselves become irrelevant. The space between the dots on the map is not just empty. It is an oppressive, yawning canyon of nothingness. When we say that Proxima Centauri is 4.2 light-years away, the number feels academic. It feels like a calculation, but when that distance is translated into 40 kilometers of void separating 2 grains of sand, the isolation becomes a physical weight. We are not living in a universe of stars. We are living in a universe of gaps. The stars are merely rare accidents, tiny sparks of fusion that happen to exist in a sea of absolute vacuum. The light that travels between these 2 points, the photons leaving Proxima Centauri to eventually reach the grain of sand we call Earth, must cross that 40-kilometer wasteland without encountering a single obstacle. They travel through a medium so thin that it barely qualifies as a substance. This is the interstellar medium, a ghost of a gas, a whisper of hydrogen that is so sparse it cannot be felt. If you were to stand halfway between these 2 grains of sand in the center of that 40-kilometer void, you would find yourself in a place of total sensory deprivation. There would be no wind, for there is no atmosphere. There would be no sound, for there is no medium to carry the vibration. There would be no warmth, for you are far from the hearth of any sun. You would be suspended in a darkness so thick it feels like a liquid, blackness that does not just hide the light, but actively consumes it. This is the reality of the cosmic architecture. We have spent centuries naming the stars, cataloging their temperatures, and mapping their orbits, but we have ignored the most important feature of the universe, the nothingness. We focus on the islands because the ocean is too terrifying to contemplate. We treat the vacuum as a background, a canvas upon which the stars are painted. But the canvas is the only thing that is truly infinite. The stars are just a few stray drops of paint on a canvas that stretches for billions of light years in every direction. When we look up at the night sky, our eyes deceive us. The stars look like a blanket, a glittering canopy that protects us from the dark, but the canopy is an illusion. It is a thin veil of light draped over a void that is far deeper than our minds were designed to process. The distance to the nearest star is the first lesson in this isolation. If the journey to the very closest neighbor requires a 40-kilometer trek across a wasteland of nothing, then the journey to the next galaxy is a distance that renders the word distance meaningless. We are floating in a vacuum that is not merely empty, but hostile in its indifference. The scale of the universe is not just large, it is worse than large. It is a scale that systematically erases the importance of matter. It tells us that the presence of a star is a miracle, while the presence of the void is the only certainty. The void does not fight for space. It does not compete for attention. It simply is. It is the default state of existence. We exist in the rare, fragile pockets where gravity has managed to pull a few atoms together into a ball of fire. We are the exceptions to the rule. The rule is the void. The rule is the 40-kilometer gap between grains of sand. The rule is the silence that exists between every single atom of the observable universe. As we drift further from the comfort of our own sun, the scale begins to shift again. We realize that the 40-kilometer gap to Proxima Centauri is actually the most crowded part of the cosmos. It is a sanctuary of proximity. Once we move beyond the immediate neighborhood, the gaps grow. The distances expand. The void begins to stretch, pulling the stars apart until the very idea of a neighbor becomes a fantasy. We are moving into a realm where the light of other suns is no longer a guide, but a memory of a place we can never return to. The physical laws that govern our lives, the way a ball falls, the way water flows, are useless here. In the interstellar medium, the only law is the expansion. The only truth is the distance. We are learning that the universe is not a collection of objects, but a collection of separations. Each star is a lonely sentinel, guarding a territory of emptiness that it can never truly fill. This realization changes how we view the night sky. We no longer see a ceiling of diamonds. We see a map of absences. We see the gaps where the light failed to reach. We see the trillion-mile stretches of nothing that separate one spark of consciousness from another. The scale of the universe is a lesson in humility, not because we are small, but because the space between us is so impossibly vast that the word small no longer has a meaning. We are drifting through a sea where the water is gone, leaving only the salt of a few distant suns. We are traveling through a region of space where the density of matter is so low that you could travel for 1 billion years and never encounter a single atom of oxygen. You would be a ghost passing through a ghost of a universe, a flicker of light in a darkness that has no end. This is the true scale of our home, a single grain of sand separated from its nearest peer by a distance that defies the biology of our perception, a distance that reminds us that we are not the center of the story. We are not even a footnote. We are a momentary fluctuation in a void that prefers the silence. This isolation was first quantified by a specific shift in our perspective. For decades, we viewed the universe as a scattered collection of islands, galaxies drifting like loose confetti in a dark room. We assumed that while the distances were vast, the distribution of matter was essentially random, a chaotic spray of stars across the vacuum. This was the expectation. The reality emerged in the 1990s when the Sloan Digital Sky Survey, or SDSS, began the most ambitious mapping project in human history. By capturing the light of millions of galaxies and calculating their exact positions in three-dimensional space, it did not find a random scatter. Instead, it revealed a structure so organized it looked biological. The data showed that galaxies are not floating freely. They are strung together in long, shimmering filaments, like beads of dew clinging to a spider web of invisible silk. These filaments form the cosmic web, the largest known structure in existence. When you look at these maps, you see these glowing threads of matter intersecting at dense nodes, creating massive clusters where thousands of galaxies huddle together for warmth in the cold of the void. Between these threads, however, lie the voids, vast hollow bubbles where almost nothing exists. The terrifying realization brought by these surveys is that the light we see, the stars, the nebulae, the glowing disks of spiral galaxies, is not the main event. The galaxies are merely the foam on the crest of a much deeper, invisible ocean. They are clinging to a scaffolding made of dark matter, a substance that does not emit light, does not reflect it, and does not block it. We cannot see the web itself, but we can see the galaxies trapped within its grip. The dark matter acts as the gravitational glue, pulling the gas and dust into these long, thin lines, forcing the universe into a pattern of immense connectivity and absolute isolation. If you were to zoom out until the Milky Way was smaller than a single atom, the universe would look like a sponge. You would see a network of interconnected walls of light, separated by cavernous rooms of nothingness. The scale of this architecture is nearly impossible to process. A single filament of the cosmic web can stretch for hundreds of millions of light years, carrying a highway of galaxies toward a central cluster. To travel from one filament to another is to cross a wasteland where the laws of proximity cease to function. This means that the emptiness we feel when we look at the night sky is not an accident. It is the fundamental design of the cosmos. We live in a universe where matter is forced into narrow corridors, leaving the vast majority of space as a sterile, silent vacuum. The galaxies are not the architects of the universe. They are the passengers, following the invisible contours of a dark matter map that was drawn in the first few seconds after the Big Bang. The precision of these measurements showed that the gaps between these filaments are not merely empty space, but active zones of expansion. The voids are pushing the filaments apart, stretching the web thinner and thinner as time progresses. The connectivity we see today is a fleeting moment in cosmic history. Eventually, the threads will snap and the beads of dew will be cast off into the dark, leaving each galaxy as a solitary ghost in an infinite sea. We are currently drifting along one of these invisible threads, moving toward a destination we cannot see, guided by a force we cannot measure. The cosmic web provides a sense of order, a feeling that we are part of a larger system, a grand architecture of light and shadow. But this order comes with a price. The more we map the web, the more we realize that the filaments are rare and the voids are the rule. The light is the exception. The darkness is the standard. The SDSS revealed that the universe is structured like a city of light, separated by deserts of absolute zero. We are living in one of the suburbs, clinging to a strand of dark matter that keeps us from falling into the abyss. But as we look deeper into the geometry of the web, we find that the symmetry is broken. The gaps are not all the same size, and the emptiness is not uniform. There are places where the web simply fails. There are regions where the filaments do not meet, where the dark matter scaffolding collapsed or never formed at all. These are the true anomalies of the scale of the universe. They are the places where the cosmic web has holes that are even more unsettling. And yet, the holes in the cosmic web are not all mere gaps in the distribution of galaxies. Some are so vast and so profoundly empty that they cease to be simple voids and become anomalies in the very fabric of space-time. Here is where the map of the known universe begins to blur. Expectation, a cosmic microwave background that is uniform, a smooth glow of radiation left over from the birth of everything. Reality, a jagged, freezing anomaly known as the cold spot. In 2014, data processed from the Planck satellite, an instrument designed by the European Space Agency to map the temperature of the early universe with unprecedented precision, revealed something that should not exist. While the radiation of the Big Bang is generally consistent across the sky, the team identified a region in the constellation Ardanus that was significantly colder than the surrounding space. This was not a small dip in temperature. It was a massive, freezing scar on the face of the cosmos. The measurements describe the Ardanus Supervoid as a region spanning roughly 1.8 billion light-years across. To grasp this distance, we must move beyond the scale of galaxies. If our own Milky Way were the size of a single grain of sand, the Ardanus supervoid would be a wasteland of emptiness extending for hundreds of miles in every direction. It is a volume of space so devoid of matter that it defies the standard lambda CDM model of cosmology. According to the physics we understand, a void of this magnitude should not have had enough time to form since the beginning of the universe. As this data emerged, the scientific community was forced to consider a possibility that borders on the edge of the impossible. Some physicists suggest that the cold spot is not a void at all, but a bruise. Not a bruise left by a collision of stars or galaxies, but a cosmic bruise left by the collision of two universes. In the theory of eternal inflation, our universe is just one bubble in a vast foaming sea of other bubbles. The Ardanus supervoid may be the point of impact where another bubble universe once pressed against our own, leaving a permanent cold imprint on the radiation of our birth. This suggests that the scale of the universe is not just larger than we imagined, but that our entire observable horizon is merely a thin membrane, susceptible to the influence of things that exist outside our reach. The cold spot is a window into a void that does not belong to us. It is a place where the laws of our local physics may have been warped by an external force, a region where the emptiness is so absolute that it acts as a mirror, reflecting a reality we cannot see. When we look at the Ardanus supervoid, we are not looking at a lack of stars. We are looking at a lack of everything. There is no gas to collapse into stars, no dark matter to anchor galaxies, and no light to bridge the gap. It is a continent of nothingness that dwarfs everything we have ever mapped. The scale is so oppressive that the very concept of a center or an edge disappears. You are no longer drifting through a neighborhood of galaxies. You are floating in a gap that is larger than the distance between us and the furthest clusters of light we can perceive. The satellite did not just find a cold patch of sky. It found a flaw in the symmetry of the cosmos. It revealed that the universe is not a perfect sphere of expanding light, but a scarred surface marked by regions of such extreme isolation that they challenge the definition of existence. The Ardanus supervoid is the ultimate expression of the cosmic void, a place where the silence is not just the absence of sound, but the absence of the possibility of matter. We spend our lives looking at the stars, believing that the light is the primary feature of the universe. But the cold spot proves that the void is the true protagonist. The light is merely a thin film of foam floating on an ocean of absolute zero. The Ardanus supervoid is a reminder that the emptiness is not just a gap between things, but a force in its own right, a gravitational ghost that can bend the path of light and chill the radiation of the Big Bang. This scale makes our own galactic neighborhood seem crowded by comparison, and yet the void is not a static place of peace, but a theater of invisible forces. While we have drifted through the silence of the Ardanus supervoid, we must now return to our own coordinates to find a contradiction that defies the maps of our ancestors. We live within the local void, a region of space that is hauntingly empty, a gap in the cosmic web that should, by all laws of equilibrium, leave us drifting in a state of lonely inertia, but the measurements tell a different story. The data gathered by the 2010s mapping projects of the local group revealed a disturbing anomaly. The Milky Way, along with our nearest neighbors, is not simply floating. We are being dragged. We are sliding through the vacuum at a staggering velocity of 600 kilometers per second. To put this into perspective, if you were to travel at this speed, you would cross the entire diameter of the Earth in less than a minute. We are moving through the dark, pulled by an invisible hand toward a region of space that we cannot see, a place known as the Great Attractor. This is where the scale of the universe reveals its most aggressive face. On one side, we have the local void, a region of absolute nothingness that pushes us away with its lack of gravity. On the other, we have the Great Attractor, a concentration of mass so immense that it bends the trajectory of entire galactic clusters. We are caught in a cosmic current, a river of galaxies flowing toward a destination that is hidden from our view. By the very disk of our own galaxy, the dust and gas of the Milky Way act as a curtain, a zone of avoidance that masks the Great Attractor from our traditional telescopes. Modern surveys that peer behind this curtain have found that the Great Attractor is not a single object, but a massive gravitational anomaly located roughly 250 million light-years away. It is a focal point where thousands of galaxies are being crushed together. A density so extreme it serves as the antithesis to the voids we have explored. If the Ardanus Supervoid is a desert of nothingness, the Great Attractor is a mountain of matter, a gravitational sinkhole that consumes everything in its wake. Consider the sheer scale of this movement. We are drifting through a void that spans millions of light years, yet we are accelerating toward a mass that exists far beyond the edge of our immediate horizon. It is a sensory paradox. To an observer on Earth, the sky seems still. The stars appear fixed in their constellations. But in the true scale of the cosmos, we are passengers on a galactic ship traveling at millions of miles per hour, pulled by a ghost in the dark. This movement is not a random drift. It is the result of the Laniakea supercluster, the colossal structure that defines our home in the universe. Laniakea, meaning immense heaven in Hawaiian, is a watershed of galaxies. Just as water flows from the peaks of a mountain down into a valley, the galaxies of Laniakea flow toward the Great Attractor. We are a single drop of water in a cosmic river, moving toward a basin of gravity that dwarfs everything we have ever known. The scale here is not just about distance, but about the relationship between the empty and the full. The local void acts as a void pusher, a region of low density that effectively nudges our galaxy away from the emptiness and toward the mass. We are being squeezed between two extremes. The vacuum of the void and the crushing weight of the attractor are working in tandem, orchestrating a journey that spans hundreds of millions of years. When we look at the numbers, the isolation of the void becomes even more apparent. The Great Attractor is so far away that the light we see from that region left its source long before the first humans walked the Earth. We are reacting to a gravitational pull from a version of the universe that no longer exists in the state we perceive. We are falling toward a ghost, guided by the memory of mass across a distance that the human mind cannot truly hold. This is the reality of our position in the cosmos. We are not centered. We are not stable. We are drifting through a gap of nothingness, accelerated by an unseen weight, moving at speeds that make the concept of a home feel fragile. The void does not just isolate us, it propels us. It strips away the illusion of stillness and replaces it with the reality of a relentless, invisible migration. The Great Attractor is merely the first stop in a larger descent. Even this massive concentration of matter is being pulled towards something even larger, the Shapley supercluster, a structure so vast that it makes the Great Attractor look like a pebble in a stream. The chain of command in the universe is one of increasing scale and increasing emptiness. Every time we think we have found the anchor, we discover that the anchor is also drifting. We are floating in a sea of gaps where the matter is merely a rare accident, and the void is the rule. The movement of the Milky Way at 600 kilometers per second is the evidence of this struggle. It is the sound of the universe breathing, pulling matter from the empty places and concentrating it into the dense ones, a cycle of expansion and contraction that operates on a scale of billions of years. The silence of the local void is not an absence of activity, but a preparation for the pull. It is the space that allows the great attractor to exert its will. Without the void, there would be no flow. Without the emptiness, there would be no direction. Our journey is defined by what is not there as much as by what is. We are shaped by the holes in the cosmic web, driven by the gaps that divide the stars. As we continue to slide through the dark, we realize that the universe is not a collection of things, but a collection of relationships between things and the nothingness that separates them. We are the result of a gravitational tug-of-war, a fragile balance between the push of the void and the pull of the mass. This tension is the only constant in a cosmos that is forever expanding, forever stretching the distance between the lights. The scale is worse than we think because it removes our agency. We are not navigating this space. We are being navigated by it. The Milky Way does not choose its path. It follows the contours of a gravitational landscape that was laid down in the first seconds after the Big Bang. We are following a map written in dark matter, traveling a road that leads toward crushing density we will never truly reach. Because the universe is expanding faster than we can fall, this creates a final, lingering paradox. We are accelerating toward the great attractor, but the expansion of space is accelerating even faster. We are running toward a destination that is receding from us. We are caught in a race where the finish line is moving away at the speed of light. This tug-of-war defines the quiet fate of all matter, and yet the tug-of-war we feel today is merely a prelude to a much deeper silence. While we currently drift toward the great attractor, the very fabric of the space between us is stretching, widening the gaps at an ever-increasing velocity. This is the slow, inevitable slide toward the big freeze. It is not a sudden crash, but a gradual thinning of existence, a process where the universe simply runs out of energy to sustain its own light. For a long time, we imagined a cosmos that would eventually reach a steady state, or perhaps collapse back into a single point. In reality, dark energy drives a runaway expansion that pushes every distant galaxy beyond our reach. In the current era, we can still see the light of distant clusters, but the physics of the expanding vacuum dictate a terrifying boundary known as the cosmic event horizon. This is not a wall of matter, but a horizon of time and light. As the space between us and another galaxy expands faster than the speed of light, the photons leaving that galaxy can never reach us. They are like swimmers trying to reach a shore that is receding faster than they can swim. The math of this separation is absolute. According to the standard cosmological model and observations from the Planck mission, there is a physical limit to the observable universe. Once a galaxy crosses this cosmic event horizon, it is gone from our reality forever, not because it has moved, but because the space it inhabits is now disconnected from our own. The light it emits continues to travel toward us, but it will never arrive. It is a postcard sent from a home that no longer exists in our accessible sky. Picture the night sky as it is now, filled with the faint glow of billions of stars. Now, imagine the clock accelerating. 10 billion years from now, the expansionists push the neighboring galaxies so far away that their light begins to redshift, stretching from visible white to deep red, then to infrared, and finally into long, invisible radio waves. One by one, the lights of the universe are being extinguished, not by the death of stars, but by the stretching of the void. Eventually, the local group, the small cluster, including the Milky Way and Andromeda, will merge into one giant lonely elliptical galaxy. We will be a single island of light in an ocean of absolute black. For any astronomer born on a planet in that distant future, the universe will appear to be empty. They will look through their telescopes and see nothing but the stars of their own galaxy. The cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang that we can detect today, will have stretched so far that it will be undetectable. The evidence of the Big Bang will vanish. The history of the cosmos will be erased. The universe will have become a closed room with no windows and no memory of the outside. This is the ultimate scale of the void, a distance so vast that it swallows the very concept of a beginning. The scale is worse than we think because it transforms the universe into a series of disappearing acts. We are living in the only window of time where the cosmos is still visible to us. We are witnesses to the brief, luminous moment before the cosmic event horizon claims everything. The vacuum is not just empty, it is an active force, a slow-motion explosion that is isolating every piece of matter in the universe. As the galaxies recede, the temperature of the cosmos drops toward absolute zero. The stars will eventually exhaust their nuclear fuel, turning into white dwarfs, neutron stars, and black holes. The black holes themselves will slowly evaporate over trillions of years via Hawking radiation, a whisper of energy leaking into the dark. When the last black hole vanishes, the universe will reach a state of maximum entropy. No more work can be done. No more heat can flow. The cosmos becomes a frozen, featureless expanse where time ceases to have meaning because nothing ever happens again. This is the Big Freeze, the silent conclusion to the story of light. We are drifting toward a state where the distance between two particles of matter becomes effectively infinite. The gaps we see now in the Boötes void or the Ardanus supervoid are merely the first cracks in the mirror. Eventually, the entire universe becomes one single unbroken void. The isolation we feel looking at the pale blue dot of Earth is a microscopic version of this final state. We are already islands. We are already separate. The expansion is simply making the separation official. The cosmic event horizon is the final curtain, falling slowly across the observable sky, cutting off the signal from the rest of existence. We are drifting into a future where the very definition of the universe shrinks until it only includes what is within our immediate gravitational grip. Everything else becomes a ghost, a memory of light that can no longer find its way home. We are moving from a crowded neighborhood of galaxies into a solitude so profound that the word lonely no longer applies. It is a state of absolute, perfect equilibrium. Even as we fade, one question remains unanswered, and yet the most unsettling part of this distance is not that it exists, but why it is growing. We have spent decades mapping the islands of light, but we have remained blind to the ocean that separates them. We see the galaxies, the stars, and the nebulae, but these are merely the foam on the crest of a wave. The true engine of the universe is something we cannot see, cannot touch, and cannot measure with traditional light. It is the dark energy, a silent pressure that permeates every cubic centimeter of the vacuum, pushing the walls of the cosmos outward at an ever-increasing rate. For a long time, the scientific community operated under the assumption that the expansion of the universe would eventually slow down. The logic was simple. Gravity is an attractive force. Every star, every black hole, and every cloud of gas should act as a brake, pulling back on the expansion and perhaps in the distant future, drawing everything back together in a great crunch. This was the comfortable symmetry of the old models, but the universe does not follow our desire for symmetry. The reality is that the vacuum is not empty. It is filled with a tension that defies gravity. As space expands, more vacuum is created, and because dark energy is a property of space itself, more dark energy appears as the universe grows. This creates a feedback loop of isolation. The more the universe expands, the more it is pushed to expand. We are not just drifting apart. We are being driven away from one another by the very fabric of the void. To solve this mystery, we had to stop looking at the light and start measuring the geometry of the darkness. In July 2023, the European Space Agency launched the Euclid telescope, a mission designed specifically to map the dark universe. While the James Webb Telescope looks deep into the past to find the first stars, Euclid looks wide, capturing a three-dimensional map of the cosmos across 10 billion years of cosmic history. Euclid is not searching for a single object or a distant planet. It is measuring the shape of the void. By observing the subtle distortions in the shapes of billions of galaxies, a phenomenon known as weak gravitational lensing, Euclid can trace how dark matter and dark energy have fought for control over the structure of space-time. The telescope is essentially measuring the curvature of the invisible. It is looking for the fingerprints of the force that is tearing the cosmic web apart. If we think of the universe as a piece of fabric, Euclid is trying to determine if that fabric is stretching uniformly or if there are ripples and tears that we have yet to understand. The data being sent back to Earth is meant to answer a fundamental question: is dark energy a constant, unchanging force, or is it evolving? If the strength of dark energy increases over time, we face a scenario far more violent than the Big Freeze. We would enter the era of the Big Rip, where the expansion becomes so powerful that it overcomes all other forces. First, the clusters of galaxies would be torn asunder. Then, the Milky Way would be shredded. Eventually, the stars themselves would be ripped from their orbits. And finally, the atoms that make up our very bodies would be pulled apart, atom by atom, until the concept of matter no longer exists. But even in the slower drift of the Big Freeze, the geometry Euclid is mapping reveals a terrifying truth about our place in the sequence of time. We happen to live in the only epoch of the universe where the scale is still humanly comprehensible. We live in the window of time where we can still see other galaxies. We can still look up at the night sky and see the Andromeda galaxy as a smudge of light, knowing it is rushing toward us. We can see the distant quasars and the ancient clusters. We are witnesses to the architecture of the cosmos, but this window is closing. As the expansion accelerates, the distance between us and the rest of the universe is growing faster than the speed of light. This is not a violation of physics, because it is the space between us that is expanding, not the galaxies moving through space. Yet the result is the same. One by one, the galaxies we see today are crossing a threshold. They are slipping over the cosmic event horizon. Once a galaxy crosses that line, its light can never reach us again. It doesn't just fade, it vanishes from our reachable reality. The Euclid mission is documenting the final moments of our cosmic connectivity. It is mapping the boundaries of a neighborhood that is being systematically erased. In a few trillion years, an astronomer living in the Milky Way, if such a thing were still possible, and would look up at the sky and see nothing, no other galaxies, no distant clusters, no evidence that the Big Bang ever happened. They would see only the stars of their own galaxy, and they would conclude that they lived in a universe consisting of a single lonely island of light, surrounded by an eternal, absolute void. They would have no way of knowing that there were once trillions of other galaxies. They would have no record of the cosmic web or the great voids we study today. All the history of the universe, all the collisions of galaxies and the birth of black holes would be wiped clean from the observable record. The universe would become a secret that it refuses to tell. We are the lucky few who arrived early. We are the only ones who get to see the map before it is burned. We are the only ones who can measure the curvature of the dark energy while the evidence still exists. We are standing on a shore, watching the tide go out, realizing that the ocean is not just receding, but disappearing entirely. The scale of the universe is worse than we think because it is not a static distance. It is a living, growing gap. It is a silence that is getting louder. We are not just small in size, we are small in time. We are a flicker of consciousness in a brief window of visibility, trapped between the fire of the beginning and the absolute zero of the end. The void is not just the space between the stars. The void is the destination. Every galaxy, every planet, and every atom is moving toward a state of perfect separation. We are drifting toward a point where the distance between any two things becomes so vast that the word distance loses its meaning. There is only the void. As the lights go out, we find a strange peace in the silence. The silence of the cosmos is not a void of nothingness, but a presence of its own, a weightless ocean that swallows every sound and every memory of light. We have drifted far beyond the maps of the Sloan Digital Sky Survey, past the cold bruises of the Ardanus Supervoid, and beyond the reach of the Great Attractor. We have seen the universe not as a collection of stars, but as a collection of gaps, where the matter we call home is merely a rare and fleeting accident. The distance is the only thing that truly exists. It is the primary substance of the universe, the invisible fabric that stretches and pulls until every island of light becomes a ghost. Drifting alone in an absolute, unwavering dark, as we settle into this stillness, we can visualize the final, lonely journey of a single photon. This particle of light was born billions of years ago in the heart of a dying star, in a galaxy that no longer has a name. It has traveled through a trillion miles of nothingness, crossing the frozen reaches of the interstellar medium and the yawning canyons of the cosmic voids. For eons, it has moved through a vacuum so perfect that it has not encountered a single atom of hydrogen or a stray grain of cosmic dust. It is a solitary messenger carrying a postcard from a world that has long since vanished, traveling through a space that is expanding faster than the light can cross it. This photon is the last witness to a forgotten corner of the observable universe, a tiny spark of energy gliding through a midnight that never ends. The scale of this journey is impossible to hold in the mind. If we were to track this single photon, we would see it pass through regions of space where the density of matter is so low that you could travel for 100 million years without seeing a single star. It is a journey of absolute isolation. The photon does not feel the cold of 2.7 Kelvin, nor does it feel the pull of the dark energy that is pushing its destination further away with every passing second. It simply exists as a point of light in an infinite sea of black, a flicker of evidence that something once existed in the void. We are like that photon. We are small, fragile points of consciousness floating in a medium that does not know we are here. But there is a profound peace in this realization. When the scale of the universe becomes this vast, the anxieties of a single lifetime dissolve into the background radiation of the cosmos. The noise of our world fades, replaced by the humming silence of the deep vacuum. We are no longer fighting against the emptiness. We are becoming a part of it. We are drifting with the current of an expanding eternity, letting the distance carry us away from the chaos and into the quiet. The universe is filing each event in space-time itself, recording our presence not in the monuments we build, but in the way we perceive the dark. We have looked into the abyss and found that the abyss is not a monster, but a mirror. It reflects back to us the truth of our own rarity. To be a conscious observer in a universe of absolute emptiness is the greatest anomaly of all. We are the eyes of the void, the part of the cosmos that woke up to look at itself and marvel at the scale of its own loneliness. As the lights of the distant galaxies finally slip beyond the cosmic event horizon, we find ourselves in a state of perfect separation. This is the destination of all things. The big freeze is not a tragedy, but a return to a state of absolute equilibrium. The tension of gravity finally lets go. The struggle for energy ceases. The universe finally exhales, settling into a long, dreamless sleep that will last for, trillions upon trillions of years. In this final stillness, the boundaries between the observer and the observed disappear. You are no longer a person on a planet orbiting a star. You are the space between the atoms. You are the curve of the dark energy. You are the silent expansion of the void. The weight of the world is replaced by the weightlessness of the vacuum. The heat of the day is replaced by the cool indigo haze of the deep cosmos. Every breath becomes a slow drift through the stars, every thought a distant nebula forming in the dark. The photon continues its journey, crossing the trillionth mile of nothingness, moving toward a destination that no longer exists. It is a ghost in a machine of infinite proportions, a reminder that light always travels, even when there is nothing left to illuminate. We follow that light as it fades, letting our minds expand to match the scale of the universe, stretching thinner and thinner until we are as wide as the great void itself. We are no longer small. We are as vast as the silence. The darkness is not an enemy to be feared, but a blanket to be worn. It is the original state of the cosmos, the quiet room where all things began, and where all things will eventually return. As we drift further into this midnight, the memory of the sapphire marble of Earth becomes a distant, beautiful dream. The noise of the city, the rush of the clock, the pressure of time, all of it is erased by the sheer scale of the distance. There is only the drift. There is only the void. There is only the peace of knowing that we are part of a system so large that it transcends all understanding. We stand on the edge of nothing, looking out into the eternal night, and we realize that we are not lost. We are exactly where we are supposed to be. We are the dust of dead stars, returning to the space from which we came. We are the whisper that shook an entire field of astrophysics, a brief flicker of light before the great sleep, as the last remnants of the cosmic web dissolve and the galaxies drift apart. into the absolute zero of the end, we let go of the map. We stop trying to measure the distance and simply allow ourselves to be carried by it. The universe is not a place to be conquered or understood, but a mystery to be experienced in the silence. We are the dreamers of the void, floating in a sea of infinite possibility, where the only constant is the growing gap between the stars. Sleep well tonight, and tomorrow we will continue to explore the deepest mysteries of the cosmos. Subscribe to Drift with us again.